Welcome back to the AI Accelerator Podcast, where we get into the practical side of AI. And that means real use cases, real results, real takeaways. Today's guest has been called the Indiana Jones of Social Entrepreneurship, and his resume backs it up. Evan Kubicek is the Fractional Chief Revenue Officer at AiPRL Assist, helping mid-market retailers use emotionally intelligent AI to transform their customer experience. He's also senior faculty in marketing, sales, and entrepreneurship at Eastern Illinois University, and earlier in his career, he helped scale Cloud Factory, which is a distributed workforce company built in Nepal, whose model wasn't cheap labor, it was developing people into leaders. Putting people at the center of technology runs through everything Evan does. Evan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Yeah, I'm excited to get more into your name. Indiana Jones is a big favorite memory of my childhood, and you've been called the Indiana Jones of social entrepreneurship. Can you explain where that nickname came from and sort of what it means in today's world?
Yeah, for me, actually, I was thinking more about it when we first started chatting, the idea of the classroom, like the classic Indiana Jones. So rather than like a focus on history or archaeology, my focus has always been on business, but there's been a lot of international overlap, especially early in my career. Earlier career started off when I graduated from college, had been working in a startup during the college years, but actually went into missions work. So I got to see the impact of a good job, and I got to see the impact of business in developing economies and how much it really changes just families and communities and all that kind of things. And I just really fell in love with that ability to go back and forth between I remember like the professors that had the most impact on me were the ones that were actively involved in running a business of some kind. They either had just recently come from industry or they were still in industry. And so I really tried to maintain that same ability just for my own, to not be bored. Like I know if I'm bored in the classroom, I know my students are definitely bored. So the ability to take things, and that's been so fascinating for me this past year, working in an AI startup company, is taking something that's moving. I don't think it's an imagination to say this is moving faster than I think we've seen almost any other technology in terms of its evolution or rollout and disruption of specific niches. So to be able to take that and then bring that right in the classroom, for me, is always just really fascinating.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I get the Indiana Jones reference relates to being the professor as well, because you're doing both. You're on the entrepreneur side, you're on the education side, which is fascinating. Let's talk about the startup a little bit. So AiPRL Assist, what does the company do? Who do you serve? Explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's why I was really excited about this podcast, because the audience of mid-market is exactly who we're with as well. We do have some enterprise clients that we're working with, which has been really great to be early and it goes back just to the speed of AI, right? Is that you can go from nothing to having something that's really truly valuable at the enterprise level very quickly whenever you're focused. So we're very focused on retail, brick and mortar, customer experience, customer service. So that's our very specific niche. As I was, looking at what you do and what you've done in your career and kind of some of the things that you're involved in, Matt, what was coming to mind was just kind of this analogy of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I see is like, I see that you do a really good job of helping businesses identify which valley, which mountain, or which stream they should focus on compared to all the mountains and all the valleys available to them. And then I would say like where AiPRL is like we're the trail guide. So once you invite people in to start taking those trails, the experience on that trail matters a lot, right? Because if you have a great trip but a terrible guide, it doesn't matter where you've gone, where you've taken them to. Like the experience was bad. And that's what's challenging for mid-tier brick and mortar retailers, is that they're measured against the highest quality customer experiences that everyone has. Just like social media gets measured against everything that's online. Like if you're trying to get attention, right, you're against every content creator on the planet. It's really hard to distinguish yourself. So that's where we focus ourselves on, is creating that value in the mid-tier space with retailers.
That's awesome. That's such a fascinating niche too, and I want to understand about a little bit about how that relates, like the key stakeholders that you'd be engaging with. Like how does how does stakeholder transformation work rather than just sort of customer employee experience? Like, what does that mean
Sure.
to you?
Kind of knowing, we like to start with, well, we move into sales and service because that's a very typical thing that you'll see in a brick and mortar scenario is you've got leading up to purchase, and if they're higher consideration purchases like an automobile or even furniture, we do a lot in the furniture space. Someone might be shopping for weeks or months, before they actually make the purchase. So they're coming back, they're hitting the website, they're noticing social media, they're being retargeted, all that process. Like that's one experience and that's one whole team. But then once they made the purchase, and then there's navigating shipping and warranty and service claims and just kind of follow up and maintenance, that's a completely different team. And that handoff is really, really important. But it's the same customer, right? So like I every time I talk to people on all these different levels about, customer experience, customer service, everyone has terrible stories of how, they called me and then I text them back and they had no record of anything we talked about, or I bought something from their website and I took it to their store and they have no visibility into that system. It's mind-boggling. Like, and that's not even mid-tail. That's like national retail chains that have so many disconnects in that reality. So that's what you're talking about, like the number of stakeholders in that retail brick and mortar experience is vast. They have 5 to 12 different SaaS subscriptions that hold all those different data silos, and none of them talk to each other. So the pain, right, is always thrown onto the employee, and then a lot of times that pain gets pushed onto you and I as the customer to tell them what their other employee told us, a week or two ago. It's very broken.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and I can tell you care a lot about the customer experience, the end customer experience as well as the experience of the employees trying to best serve the customer. Right, this a servant leadership opportunity. How does AiPRL Assist connect all that together?
Yeah.
Like, is that what it does? Is it connecting the dots between all that? And
I would say there's two really big pieces of the puzzle. I'll start with the hard one first, and I'll go back to the easier one. Although the easy one is still not normal. It's very uncommon. So the harder one is the API connections into all the systems where all the information is actually held right now, and that's where most employees are the ones that have to be that bridge. And it's them logging in, looking up your record, and then going through the system. I think the classic example is any gate agent at an airport. You ask them a question, it's just like furious typing for a minute and a half because they're in and out of all these different screens, right? And they're trying to figure out what is possible for you before they can communicate, before they can give you an option. They have to know what's there, and those options are changing as they type. So it should be a simple question, but it's not. So I think that's the big part of that piece is we do the hard work of the API integrations into those systems so that when someone does ask a question, they can ask that question directly of AI without having to have an employee sit in the middle of that negotiation. So that's one big. The other big piece is that we've fully merged all those communication channels. So if someone starts on social media from a Facebook post or Instagram post or whatever, or messaging, or as a web chat or a phone call or a text conversation, as you switch between those channels, there's memory. It knows previous conversations, so you don't repeat yourself. If there's one pet peeve that will definitely make me very instantly frustrated, it's I get transferred and I repeat it all over again. And so we're able to eliminate that. So we eliminate it by not having to repeat yourself between channels. But then also, when you do ask a question, AiPRL is actually connected to the system that has the answer. So we're able to eliminate a lot of the questions that people have because they're very simple questions. Like, I just want to know my order status. Is it going to get here on time? Because I got conflicting information from the text message versus the email. Now I don't know which one's true because those systems aren't talking to each other. And those companies are, a lot of them don't own their data. It's been really kind of shocking in that realization is that I think they think they have more data than they think they have access to more data than they do until one of those systems goes down or they transition from one system to another and they realize all the data that's in that system stays with that provider. They don't get to keep it, even on the website level. They don't have the ability to even update pricing on some of their products for some retailers. They have to go through their website agency to be able to make product changes. It's wild.
Wow. So it sounds like you're changing not only the employee experience, but the end customer experience as well. So it's like the two sides of it there. So what is it? What is the typical turnaround time to go from zero, like they don't know who AiPRL Assist is,
Sure.
to hey, we just started working with you all, and now we have a better employee and customer experience. Like what does that look like?
Right now, we're sitting around the 8 to 10 week mark because of the multiple channel integration and because of the API integrations. And I think the slowest part of that piece is getting connected into the vendors that they're already connected with. It's not intended to replace systems because those systems, I think that's the piece we talked about this previously. Like there's so much opportunity with AI tools. Like the sky is the limit, but we still live in a real world. So just because you can conceptually build all these systems, they have to connect back to some type of real truth and some type of real like in the ground reality. And those in the ground realities do have real limitations. So being able to know what what is accessible, and I'll give a tangible specific example of that. So AI voice last year was amazing. It's like, I can't believe I'm talking to an AI voice. Now, literally anyone can create an AI voice model. There's multiple companies you can work with. You can create an AI voice agent, and you can do that through multiple tools. So it's interesting, it's impressive, but it's not a difficult feat to accomplish. Now, in order for it to say something meaningful, though, that's where it goes back into, right, it has to connect into a data set. The data set can just be static files, right? It can just be a knowledge base where it just goes and looks up something. But if it's logging and connecting into a system through an API call and looking up an actual record, at the time it takes for that API call to happen, and then to send that to a model to then formulate and then send that to a voice engine, and then send that voice engine back to you it's not less than 100 milliseconds for it not to feel awkward in a normal human-like conversation. That's where it gets really, really difficult to be able to provide amazing customer experience and service with an answer that actually is meaningful to what they're asking about.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very complex problem to solve. It's awesome that your company has put that together because there's a lot of it's connecting to the data that I think is really a challenging piece out there. You don't get that out of the box, right? Which is why you have the company to do that, and that's so important. What do you use under the hood? Do you have access to like all the models that are out there today because it's AI it's the connection to everything, but then it's an AI layer that's built in there as well. How is that?
It is, and like so you got frontier models, and you've got companies that are working on, and I would say that's what we're working towards is creating the world's best retail AI model. I'm very thankful for this past 6 months, 8 months, where I've been able to go to a lot of different AI conferences and speak on some different topics or something. But being in the room with some people that are doing some amazing work. There's another gentleman I need to introduce you to. You definitely need to talk to. He's been doing some wild stuff with Claude. What I've seen from different engineering teams from larger places like Google and like in Meta is larger models only get you so far. Going back to my previous work experience doing data entry, crowdsourced data entry, is a lot of that work started off of Amazon Mechanical Turk 10, 15 years ago. where it was like a flea market for data entry. It was a terrible way to get enterprise things done, but that was the best option at the time. So looking at if you're going to a larger model, you're going to get the context of literally everything. And it's very easy for it to not understand the nuance of what you're specifically asking. So sorry, long answer to a short question. So what we're really working on is smaller agents with proper quick handoffs that really understand what the task is. Because if someone's calling and they haven't purchased yet, that's a very different conversation than a known customer with a known order history and and so why they're calling. And so when that system can be triggered and know I'm talking to Matt, Matt just bought something 6 weeks ago. He's either questioning about something, he has a service issue, or he finally realized he wanted to buy the extra accessory he didn't buy the first time we talked to him about, right? And so a sales conversation versus a service recovery, those are two very different feelings of conversation. And I think and you don't get that by having an agent that just says, "Hey, Matt, how's it going today?" Like just general shoot the breeze, like, "Hey, are you calling about this? Or what, how can we help you right now? Let's dial right in." Because the last thing you want to do is actually be making this phone call. Like if life was going great, you wouldn't be talking to us. Like that's the reality. People don't want to do these things. They'd rather be doing something else.
It's very true. It's very true. People want it to be seamless, so it doesn't impact their world.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we shop. Our shopping schedule is so different, right? Like people don't have the time before 5 o'clock to solve some of these problems. But a lot of mid-tier stores and mid-tier businesses, their customer service hours end 7 p.m. Like probably I'm being gracious. Like usually they're sooner than that. So if you don't call before then, you're just not going to get an answer to the problem that you've got.
Yeah. I think that's an important piece. It's often in the banking and financial world, it's the same thing. It's usually
Yep.
8 to 5 or whatever. And if you're on the East Coast, well, what about the West Coasters who can't even get there? Or vice versa. Well, let's talk about the social impact piece, because I know that social entrepreneurship a little bit. A lot of leaders want their business to have real social impact today. It's become a lot more part of the vernacular these days, but they don't know where to begin, right?
Yeah.
So if from your background, you had said that it's not your problem to join, it's yours to own it, right? This is from a social impact perspective. Sure. Where should companies actually start if they want to have a bigger or more impactful social footprint?
I think it does come down to, I guess I would frame it this way, is that just as important data is to be able to provide good answers and train models is the same power of like an unshakable reality and truth is for social impact. If you're just saying we just want to make things better and it's not defined what better or good is, like better or good is. So if we talk about let's talk about family for an example. It's like we want parents to be able to spend time with their kids. Like that's what matters to us as a company. Like I know a great guy that I worked with previously that was fitness and family, like that was a core value for them. So how they made sure that happened was making sure that no one was working during dinner hours. Like everyone's logged off. If you need to get some work done at night, do that after 9 o'clock if need. But if you're home with your family, be home with your family. So I think when you establish, I always talk about it in terms of like this chain of you have to invoke something that's true, that doesn't change. Because when I invoke a concept that's true, like family, you can't replace them. They are your family. They for better or for worse, they're yours and you're theirs. So family is your family. And when we focus on like we want you to have a good, strong relationship with your family, that's gonna that stirs up emotion. That's gonna have it just affects people at a very deep level. And then as more people are affected by that and they start to make changes to behaviors, that sets the culture for your company. And that sets the culture for them to set the culture for your clients and for your customers and for your vendors, right? Like that's when we do business with that company, that's what is important to them. So we know that's just the way it's going to be. It's like if you're selling into a company and they only want to do business with vendors that will physically walk in the door. It's not going to happen by phone. It's not going to happen by Zoom. It's not going to happen by meeting them at a trade show. You're physically going to have to commit to sending a rep to walk in the building and shake hands with those people if you're going to get that sale because that's a value to them, right? Then that's going to be the case, and you'll start to maybe value that yourself, and you'll do that with some other. Just like that's how impact happens, but it happens because you identify something that is real and true, and you're willing to make a commitment to that. And then that's harder because it takes longer to really identify like, well, what is it that we actually believe in? Like, what is it that we believe in so much that we're willing to spend more money on these other things in order to make that tangible for ourselves and for other people?
Yeah, it's a very, very good answer. I want to wrap up with one question about the education side of things.
Yeah.
This is an area that gets a little more, I'd say, controversial in the news and
Sure.
so forth, because you're in the classroom every semester, and AI is here now. There's all this like things happening with it. So are AI and higher education, are they compatible? Is the current model breaking? Is it creating a massive disruption from what you see in the education space today, or what does the future crystal ball look like there?
Yes. It's I was I think COVID solidified for me which bubble was going to break first, healthcare or education. So it solidified for me that it's education will be the one that will fail before government involvement in healthcare will fail. It's just a matter of how quickly that shift will happen. And there are amazing educators everywhere. And I think there's ones, and I'll frame it this way too. It's like I think there's places where it's not necessary. Like, but there's also places where it's now become critical. So for my classes, I'm in business and I'm in marketing and I'm in entrepreneurship. So there's a lot of opportunity for AI tools to be able to make outputs substantially better for students, especially because I think this is one of the challenge, because I put myself back in my shoes like 20 plus years ago when I was in the same seats as I teach at my alma mater. So this is, I was in these seats. I understand what it feels like to be in this room and not have life experience. So I can talk about B2B sales all day long. They'll no clue what that's like, what that means, or what it feels like, or what it looks like. So giving them an AI tool that can work them through, these are the things you have to have. Like this is just the bare minimum to be accepted for an RFP. Like if you want your RFP to be considered, you just have to go, this is the format. You got to answer the questions. Like no student is going to fully get that. AI will help them to go to do that. So for me personally, what I've done is I've actually raised the bar on my expectations rather than lowering it. And I think that's most people's concern is that AI just lowers the bar. People don't understand things now and they're turning in work, which is true. Like it's not an untrue statement. But I think whenever you frame it in a way that you can expect more from a student and you can say, I want you to use this tool, because I do have students that are morally opposed to using AI. Right? We see that with the graduation ceremonies this past May, where people are getting booed. Like that is a reality. That is a sentiment, especially in the arts and the humanities, because it feels like it's replacing some of these things. So it's a giant unknown exactly because it's rolling out very differently between the arts and the sciences and some in business and in different pieces of it, especially just the quality of models from a year ago to now in terms of, can I trust the engineering outputs of AI? You asked that question a year ago, it was like, absolutely not. Like, not even a question. Now with Fable, right? And you look at some of the stuff that it's done, people are like, it's actually pretty accurate. Like, we shouldn't just blindly trust it. But it's a pretty high level of quality compared to what it was. So we're seeing just that curve. So I think it's just going to roll out very differently from private to public, and then within each individual discipline. And then you throw in personal preference of, because you still have the reality of the classroom is the domain of that professor. So what they want to do, unless it's mandated by the administration, is what's going to happen in that room.
Yeah,
So
well said.
I don't know.
Great
But I know
response.
there's a shift. There's absolutely a shift. It's already happening.
Yeah, no, it's a great response, Evan. I appreciate all your candor with that because it can be a touchy subject out there, and but there's a lot of things that are happening. With change comes opportunity, and there's a lot of good things coming. And I like your attitude and your perspective toward it.
I would
And
say one encouraging thing though is that I've seen is that even at the AI conference circuit, because there's been two different communities, like from Atlanta to Chicago, like a lot of different cities that I've spoken in. What I've heard consistently from all these different streams is, how do we do this in a way that we actually help employees do their work? What I don't hear is, how do we utilize this to minimize payroll? Like, that's now internal conversations in a small executive team. It's a necessary conversation to have. It's like, can we, if our competition is doing this, do we have to as well, just to keep pace? Like, that is a reality. But you also see plenty of stories of businesses that, they weren't on the leading edge, they were on the bleeding edge, and now they are, because they went too quickly. And but you also can't afford to not be doing something. So I know that's been a consistent thing in a lot of your interviews as you talk with people, is you need to know where to put your energy and your effort and where to start focusing on things. And I would say that's my take, and that's our take as a company, is that you need to ground it in reality and pick some pieces and start to, right, because it's everything's AI, and it feels like everything. How do I know, right? People are stuck. They can't really analyze one vendor to the next because everything is possible. Everything's amazing. This is going to be the best thing you've ever done. And, but no vendor has ever done that, ever. Like, why would this be different, right? And it's not, unless you really get into a very specific area and you're working with people that understand that value. If I go back to the mountain analogy, like, people because they've walked this trail before, and now they're walking this trail just with a super cool flashlight that no one's ever seen before.
exactly. I like that. Super cool flashlight. Well, Evan, as we wrap up, I really appreciate your time, your insights, everything. This was a fantastic conversation. I'm excited for the impact that it's going to have out there in the world and going forward. And again, really appreciate your perspectives, your unique combination of education and entrepreneurship, and even social activism out there. If people want to contact you, is LinkedIn the best way to go?
LinkedIn's great. LinkedIn's great. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. I try to stay active there as much as I can. There's so much to learn, and there's a lot of stuff that's out there, and there's a lot of just AI garbage as well these days. But at the end of the day, there's just people that are putting out what they're doing, and there's a lot to learn. And there's a lot of really good stories that are coming from this frontier models and frontier companies, where you can kind of see what they've done, and being. I think we're in that time period now where it's the more people share their successes and failures, just the faster everyone learns and gets better in what we're doing.
Yeah, it's very, very true. Very true. Well, thank you again for being on the show, Evan. And for those listening, thank you for listening to the AI Accelerator Podcast. Keep building, keep learning, keep accelerating, and we'll keep growing over time.